This is Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski. Here now, Tony Brueski.
The area where they're talking about, basically purging the uncleanliness out of the kids. That to me is an interesting area because in other religions, I guess, you do that through education. You do that through, okay, this is right, this is wrong, this is what we believe, this is how we act. Other people do this, but that's not what we believe. And it's like it's upbringing a child without abuse. It's just here's our moral compass, but it's based on religion, not just being a decent human being. With that, it led to abuse. The purge of the uncleanness of the children. Why does it go there? Why does it go to abuse and not just a more calm, rational way of parenting? How on earth are they thinking they're going to get the devil and the demons out of these children? By duct taping them, by not feeding them, by making them go stand in the sun and just torturous type things. That to me was just insane. You'd have to believe that your children are not your children anymore if you're going to do that, to put them through such pain and to have zero empathy there. That's a hard one for a lot of people to wrap their minds around.
You just said it right there. To believe your children aren't your children anymore. Yeah. She actually said, Ruby said, these are devils.
Yeah.
And so this was a slow boiling frog, and this was all Jodi. That was the impetus for this. And she saw a mentally weak victim in Ruby that she could manipulate because she saw that Ruby had elements of a lack of empathy in her because, she charted her marriage. She chose through a chart who she's going to marry.
Yeah.
All right. So here's what Jodi did. Jodi slowly boiled this. And so there's one point when Jodi moved into the Ruby Franke household. Even though Jodi's house was, I've never seen a mansion like this. This was the coolest house I've ever seen in my life. She lived there alone in the middle, 4 hours away from the Frankes. Beautiful home and everything. But she moved in because she was being assaulted by evil demons. They have her on video possessed. It's like you're watching The Exorcist. Mm-hmm. And she was speaking like it was, I can't even
know. It was like, I'm the devil, so I have her.
Yes, right. And so, so it was a slow groom into, oh my God, because Kevin said, I believed it all. Chad, the oldest son, he believed it all. Mm-hmm. Ruby believes it all. And so they purged her through love, connections, and all these things, right? And so now that they're all bought into this, evil demons can possess us. Well, when the children aren't obeying you, when they're disobeying, which is part of the doctrine, when children are being disobedient, well, that means they're unclean. Mm-hmm. And so it was a slow trickle of, well, we need to punish them for being unclean. Oh, that didn't work. They're still being disobedient. And so they kept raising a bar of what this. So Jodi was raising a bar of what disobedience was. And so they had to raise the methods to clean them.
Yeah.
And every time they're cleaning them, they're still disobedient. And so that's because Jodi said they're possessed.
And
they're
kids.
Not your children.
Yeah.
And so because what struck me with this one, Tony, was that Ruby called them zombies.
Yes.
Who else called their kids zombies?
Lori
de Belvallo, another nutter. So this is how it happened. And so it's that escalation, that slow boiling frog, because she love bombed them at the beginning, circled it because she knows, the religion so well, good wholesome lifestyles that they have, but she then used it as a lever of manipulation because of her own trauma, her own craziness in her own life, and she escalated it for her own means. That's how.
Yeah, I mean, and those levels of manipulation and the levers of manipulation specifically that Jodi seemed to know how to pull. Do you? And this is something that I struggle with over on Lori Vallow Daybell. Is she sitting there going, okay, this is the game plan I need to have today. I need to manipulate people this way and that way to get what I want. Do you think it was that kind of a conscious thinking that Jodi was executing and Ruby was executing? Or had this just become such second nature that this is just their operating system? They're not literally thinking how to manipulate people. They just know if I do this, this is the result I get or don't get, because they just kept doing the same things over and over with abuse of their children, and they were still zombies. How conscious do you think they were in this? And also, Jodi's possession, that seemed to be a very interesting manipulation play, if she's conscious of it, because she was able to demonstrate to them that, look, people can be possessed. And then that opened the door to, well, if Jodi can become possessed, I suppose the kids can be possessed too, or they can have demons in them. And it also felt like Jodi used that as a tool to get into their lives of, oh gosh, poor Jodi over there, she's possessed. Only we can help her, and she needs us to help her. And that's how she feels like, I feel like she kind of wedged her way into the life of literally, I have to sleep in the same bedroom as Ruby, because Ruby felt, well, if I don't do this, she really needs me. So I'm just going to go up there. I'm going to comfort her. It seems just total manipulation. But do you think at the end of the day, all of those things were conscious choices of Jodi? Or is this just, is she believing her own stuff like Lori Vallow, it seems?
So everything, as Gavin DeBecker talks about in his books, it's all a choice. She made choices, and so there's no rationalizing a choice. But now let's go look at the arc that causes that choice. Yeah, she was very well practiced. She had a lot of life reps in this. Matter of fact, what really struck me too throughout this was that she still had her men's groups every I think it's every Thursday.
Yeah, something like that.
Still had a group of men buying into her crap.
Yeah,
and paying her for it. And so what she was doing was, so what you're witnessing here in Jodi Hildebrandt is someone making a lot of horrendous choices because she's medicating her pain. So let's put this another way. A lot of reasons why people take drugs and drink and overuse and get into really unhealthy bad habits and addictions is because they're medicating pain.
Yeah.
No one wakes up, says, I'm in a lot of pain, I'm going to drink to medicate my, it's a slow trickle. And so what Jodi was doing is, I don't know her background. This is, armchair therapist kind of crap, I know. But the behaviors that she's doing is she's medicating her pain by manipulation and control. And one of the ways that she's medicating her pain is money. She was making a lot of money by doing this, and she's using her talents. She had, from what I understand, she was very talented at being a therapist, and she's using that as a skill set, not as part of who she is the best way to put it. She didn't sit down and scheme out how I'm going to take advantage and beat people and everything, just because that became how she was medicating her own pain, and it kept escalating. Because as soon as you reach that one pain threshold and you medicate it, well, then it escalates. It's how, just one drink for an alcoholic just isn't enough, even though like 5 years ago it would have been enough. It's an escalation because it just will never, ever be enough until the fall. And unfortunately, the fall was her total abuse of these children. And so that's how it happened.
It's so fascinating to try and wrap your mind around their belief system. But once you kind of get there, it becomes clearer, because their definition of love, of care, of children, just like being children, is not what other people would have as the definition. Like it's a completely different meaning to these words. Do you and what we have here with Kevin is another interesting thing. Just that completely devoted, I mean, I would almost call it like extreme lust. I don't know that this is love that he has for Ruby. It seems almost like indoctrinated to feel like he has to be there. And if he's not getting that recognition that he is there, that is her, that is his person, his woman, his wife, it's just completely debilitating to him. Do you think Kevin is in or was in love with Ruby, or is this, was he just under a spell like a cult leader is under the spell of a leader?
It's interesting. I think a lot of people define love as differently. If you ask Kevin, he's madly in love with Ruby. I see it as he's completely addicted to Ruby.
Yeah, I think addiction is a good word for this. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because when you hear from the person you're addicted to that your children are in jail, he didn't go rush to save the children for the children. He rushed to get the children because he wanted Ruby.
Yeah. It
was extremely clear. So that became, and when I saw these minor data points, I started really filling in, like you said, it doesn't, it helps you understand the crazy. And I don't know at what point, and that's why it's really, I don't know enough about Kevin's arc, his spark all those years ago that allowed him to arrive where he is today. I'm really, really curious about how he grew up and what his background is that made him so susceptible to being addicted to Ruby.
Yeah, I really do wonder what that is that made the draw happen there. Other than just, well, she's attractive, and at the time they're both young and in the same religion, and somehow it all just worked together. Do you think this is a group of folks who all of them are lacking empathy, from Ruby to Kevin to Jodi, and it created a perfect storm where there wasn't a adult in the room that was able to stop and go, let's see here. This is not a good idea. There's no loving critics in the room at all. It's all people that are set out basically on their own journey of, self-preservation and self-aggrandizement, where Kevin's willing to do whatever, abandon his own kids for Ruby. Ruby's willing to do whatever she needs to feel like she's getting the salvation that she needs, or some sort of affirmation that she's being a good mother, even though she's not. And Jodi's out there in her own world, like, I want to pull people in, I want to make money, and whatever the hell else she's got going on.
Yeah, everything you said is spot on. And what we're seeing there, too, was, all of Ruby's neighbors and all the people in their circle and Jodi's circle, when they initially make their initial contact with you, it's very congruent with belief systems, with family, with LDS and all these things. But what becomes clear over a short period of time that people are seeing, which was repellent, is that there was a really huge imbalance. The focus was never on the children. The focus is always on Ruby and what Ruby wanted. The neighbors are saying Ruby was always videoing our houses and our neighborhood without even asking permission or without even telling us. Everything kept centering around Ruby. So a healthy relationship is one that's balanced with both sides giving and taking roughly equally. And there's going to be sometimes imbalances. That's where arguments might come up, or resentments and things. But generally, a great, healthy relationship has a good, healthy balance. With Jodi, with Ruby, and Kevin's an inch. I'm going to put Kevin aside for a second, but those two are the ones without the massive empathy, because they were so self-centered. All the relationships are balanced on them. Screw everyone else. It's all serving their own pain, and they're medicating themselves by manipulating and controlling the world around them. Not consciously, but by choice. And now we got Kevin. Kevin, I think, was empathetic, but only towards Ruby.
Yeah.
I don't think, you could see the pain on his face because his children were mistreated, and he does have remorse, but remorse towards, I think he's confused about his remorse. He's like, every time you hear him talking about it, when asked a question about that, he can't quite put it together. He can't quite figure out why he feels bad, because he knows he should feel bad about what happened to the children, but he's more lamenting the loss of Ruby.
Yeah.
I see what I mean. And now here's the difference. Ruby does not lament the loss of Kevin. In my mind, I don't think so, because he's just one of the guys on the chart. She laments the loss of her ability to medicate herself through all this control, through all this power, through all this money. So Kevin is a little bit different machine than those two.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Brueski and the Hidden Killers podcast.